Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with spoilers for the Fate Reforged. We're just going to go left to right there. I'm going to talk about what I think about each one of these cards. There's not many, so I'll try to keep up with these in this spoiler season and not get behind like I have in the past. This today actually has some pretty sweet spoilers. I'm just going to again go left to right here, top to bottom from the one spoiled. So let's first talk about Ugin the Spirit Dragon. I think he may see play in some sort of Tron type deck, or if the 12 post or 8 post ever gets unbanned in Modern. There has been a lot of talk about unbanning the posts, as they're not even that quick compared to certain strategies, especially with, like, if they're going to allow Treasure Cruise and Monastery Swiftspear to continue in Standard, then you might as well allow some of the combo decks to be, or some of the ramp decks to be a little more explosive to try to keep up with them. So if that ever sees play, Ugin might see some play. I just, when comparing it to Karn, I think that Karn is a much better card than Ugin. But Ugin, when you have all of the Tron lands, again, it equals 7 mana, and so Ugin comes out a little bit late versus the natural 3 Tron draw. What I mean by Tron is Urza's Tower, Urza's Mine, and Urza's Power Plant, and so that actually is going to factor in a lot. But Ugin's probably going to see a lot of EDH play. Again, if you can't read the text, it's +2 as it deals 3 damage to target creature or player. That's Ghostfire. Then his negative X is exile each permanent with current mana cost X or less. That's 1 or more color. That's actually a really, really powerful ability when you first put him out, because he does have 7 loyalty. It's one of the most for a Planeswalker. And then his negative 10, which means you have to activate his +2 twice before you can use it. You gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, and put up to 7 permanent cards from your hand on the battlefield. Pretty sweet little ultimate, especially if you just ticked it up twice. Again, in some sort of Tron type build, that could be an Emerald Coil, that could be Wormcoil Engines, that could be a Karn. So it might be, again, might be a useful card in the strategy. But until, again, Delver ever gets nerfed a little bit, I don't think that Tron will ever come back. Delver is very, very strong against Tron. Alright, so then we have the Sage-Eye Avengers. I actually like the Sage-Eye Avengers. Sage-Eye Avengers is 6 mana for a Prowess. We've already seen how powerful Prowess is in blue, and whenever it attacks, you may return target creature to its owner's hands if its power is less than Sage-Eye Avenger's power. Now, I kind of like this as a finisher for blue. Will it replace Pearl Lake Ancient? I'm not quite sure. 6 mana is a little bit steep. This needed like Hexproof or something to really put it over the top, but it does allow the blue decks to return a threat back to the hand and then keep up like Dissipate or Dissolve or whatever counter spell to counter it the following turn. So it's going to be a very, very powerful card in draft. I definitely want to see this card in my pre-release if I decide to go into those colors. And it works great in either a Timur or a Jeskai type strategy. Let's go on to Soulflayer. Soulflayer is a delve card. I actually like this. This card has so much flavor. It is 6 mana for a 4/4 delve. If a creature with flying or First Strike, Death Touch, Double Strike, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Reach, Trample, or Vigilance is exiled through the delve, then the Soulflayer gains that. So he's going to be pretty sweet, especially with Haste. You could probably put him in a hasty type deck, to where I'm thinking that even decks that have some sort of like Faithless Looting type decks where you throw some cards in the graveyard will make Soulflayer. You'll get value out of the Faithless Looting and then value out of the delve. And who knows, you could give this guy like First Strike and Lifelink, or Haste and Lifelink, and that's pretty powerful. I even think in Modern for 2 mana to get, you know, Haste Lifelink for easily on turn 2 or turn 3. I can see this actually transpiring. So then we go into Kolaghan the Storm's Fury. I actually like this dragon a lot because it's just showing me that they are going to go all in on dragons, and that dragon will play a very, very huge role in the flavor of the next 2 sets. Now, this card is more, I guess, another shot to the eye for my Underworld Cerberus spec, as I think that this card's a little more powerful in Standard than Underworld Cerberus, because Underworld Cerberus is a 6/6 for 5 mana that has evasion, but has to die to get value if you want the value back. This guy's a 5/5 flying for 5, which I think is just, the evasion is pretty much 6s between the Underworld Cerberus and this. The body on Underworld Cerberus, of course, is a little bit stronger, but I think 5 gets you above Stoke the Flames, and no one's really using the Fated Retribution, so Stoke the Flames is still the premier removal at 4, and then this guy, of course, will dodge that. But the cool thing about this is dash. It gives it the Viashino type ability back in the day where you give him haste and then return to your hand if you use the dash ability. But for dash for 5 mana, you can decide to give this guy haste, and it has kind of like a Hell Rider, or I guess more like a Hero of Bladehold, or Hero of Oxid Ridge type ability, to where this guy can be your finisher in a black-red aggro deck. If you need to just slam him out for a 4/5, you're not worried about your opponent interacting, then next turn you can actually attack with him in the turn after. But most likely you're going to be using this guy for his dash ability. So you got to think of his dash ability as an upside, not a drawback, to where if this guy said, when he entered the battlefield, he gave everything +1/+0 when he attacked, and then returned him to your hand at the end of turn, I still think this would be very playable, as we've seen cards like this in the past be playable. Again, it's going to be your finisher. It's going to get in there for that last 5 damage. If you can cast him on the turn 5, that most likely you'll be able to cast him again on turn 6. And there's actually an upside to that. If you're going against any sort of deck that has removal sorcery speed, or they're tapped out, it's going to bounce back to your hand and then they can't remove it on their turn. So really liking Kolaghan the Storm's Fury. It's a legendary creature, so you'll be able to run it in EDH as well. And I definitely see this guy seeing play. Now, it's the only one so far that I actually can guarantee is going to see standard play. Soulflayer, again, is a really fun card. Sage Eye Adventures, it depends on the metagame exactly how it works. And Ugin the Spirit Dragon, it probably will see play in some sort of control list here and there, but I think that Kolaghan so far is going to be the most impactful. But we're going to come on to Whisperwood Elemental. Whisperwood Elemental is, at the beginning of your end step, manifest the top card of your library. Now, I'm a little bit iffy on manifest. Like, I like it. The concept is a little bit complicated though, especially for new players. Like, it's going to cause a lot of judges a lot of headaches. Now, there's already one upside to manifest. I know that if you manifest in morph cards, you can actually unmorph them for their cost rather than their manifest cost, because they will be face down. The only thing that morph cares about is if they're face down, you can move it face up with its morph cost. So this one says at the beginning of your end step, manifest top card of your library, and then you put it on the battlefield as a 2/2 card, so kind of like morph. And then manifest has the ability to turn it face up, which is casting its mana cost. Again, you'll get around that with actual morph cards. So sacrifice Whisperwood Elemental. The thing I like about this is there's no mana cost to sacrificing it. Until in a turn, face up non-token creatures you control gain. Whenever this creature dies, manifest the top card of your library. So this card just screams value, 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 value. It is a little bit steep at the 5 mana cost, but it should, when this creature dies, yes, when you sacrifice it, I don't quite know if it stacks itself. If you sacrifice until in a turn, face up non-token creatures, it'll already be in the graveyard, so I do not think that Whisperwood Elemental will trigger off itself when you sacrifice it, because it will already be in the graveyard, and then that will go on the stack. So anyway, but if you have any other permanents on the battlefield, at least non-token creatures, then that are face up, so again, ones that aren't morphed down, then you'll be able to get value out of it. So we'll see if it sees play. It's pretty powerful. I can see it being play in like a mono green devotion type list. They do need some ability to recover, and I think that Whisperwood Elemental is definitely that card that allows them to recover. I would like to see this at like a 4/5 body, again, to dodge that Stoke the Flame, but it's good at a 4/4. So then we have Honor's Reward. You gain 4 life bolster. I love the bolster mechanic. You get to put +2/+2 counters on least toughness. So if you only have one creature, you get to put +2/+2. So think about in Heroic, you might actually want this in the sideboard. It could actually end up placing the Ordeal of Heliod, because 4 life, 10 life, you just really need to stabilize. It is instant speed rather than enchantment. 3 is a little bit steep for a Heroic deck, but it'll allow you to put 2 +1/+1 counters, and if you're putting on a Heroic creature, that ends up being 3 and gain 4 life. You never know if that's going to be a decent card or not. It's going to be a bomb in Limited, though. I'm going to be very happy if I see these in my sealed pool. Then we go on to Jeskai Sage. Absolutely love this card. It's 2 mana for a 1/1. When it dies, you draw a card, and it's got Prowess. I think that Prowess is very powerful just by itself. This guy, we see Seekers become 4/4s, 5/5s easily. And same with this Jeskai Sage. It's going to be a 2/2, a 3/3 very often if you cast 2 non-creature spells. And it gets that upside of drawing a card if it dies. So it's the perfect tempo card. Can I guarantee it will see standard play? No, but it is more powerful than the 1/2 looter that we have right now in cons. All right, Gurmag Angler. It's a zombie fish that's cool by itself and delve. We all know how powerful Delve is, and it's got a 5/5 body. This guy can come out very quickly, as quick as like turn 3 is a 5/5. Going to be very, very awesome in any sort of limited type strategy. These guys will go quick. It's very easy to cast this with just a black. There are plenty of strategies, especially like Sultai, that gets a ton of cards in the graveyard early, even in limited, and then this guy will come out and just begin to bash face. This card really reminds me of and then it might actually make this archetype back the 5/5 worm or 5/5 snake from the Theros block, where it had cost 1 less for each creature in your graveyard. So this one will exile creatures, which isn't as good as permanently keeping them in the yard if you have other ways like to whip it back, but it's definitely not a bad card. It's just 7 mana with Delve. We know how powerful Delve is. So let's go on to the Goblin Heel Cutter. Goblin Heel Cutter says whenever Goblin Heel Cutter attacks, target creature can't block. This turn it's got dash. Again, more of a limited card than anything, but it's a very powerful card. If you can, dash ability in an aggro type strategy, it's basically, this card can say, cost for free, an instant you can return back to your hand for 3 mana to put to do 3 damage to target player, and a blocker can't block. I mean, that's if they only have, the only thing is like Sylvan Caryatid, but the card this really gets around is the Corsair Crewfix. So if they're playing Corsair Crewfix, you can actually cast this for its dash, make it not be able to block, and then get in there for that incremental damage. And again, whenever you need just one creature like a Pelucranos or a Stormbreath Dragon or something not to block, then you've got this in your hand. So I actually really like the dash ability on this. It might not quite be playable in Constructed, but it's going to be amazing in Limited. Alright, Ethereal Ambush, and we're going to have to see how powerful the Manifest ability is before I judge this card, because I've been wrong about a lot of abilities in the past. This kind of feels like sort of a Cascade type card. So you get to manifest the top 2 cards of your library, and you can turn it face up for any time for its mana cost if it's a creature card. Okay, so I did read that wrong. So if it's a spell, you can't really turn it face up, but I think that makes the manifest ability a lot weaker. When I first read it, I really thought that, instances and sorceries, you can play them with their costs, and then this would just be like increasing your hand size by 2, or basically drawing 2 cards or putting 2/2 creatures into play. But then, of course, you'd have to sack those creatures to play the card. But in this case, it's going to work really well with morph cards, and I don't know if this is going to be powerful enough at 5 mana. We'll just have to wait and see. Alright, Velora Stance is a card that I'm absolutely in love with, because heroic strategies have been one of my favorite strategies in the format, and this is just a great either replacement for Johnny's Presence or supplement to cards like a Johnny's Presence. And it's going to make any sort of prowess type strategy viable come rotation, as this is going to trigger off the prowess and get value out of it. So you can get a creature indestructible, which is very, very powerful, or destroy target creature toughness 4 or greater, which is Siege Rhinos, it is Pelucranos. Can't hit Stormbreath Dragon at the moment, but any sort of other dragon that comes out in the format, it's going to be a very, very, very powerful card against it. 2 mana is perfectly costed. It's going to see play. Now, if it Soul Summons, 2 mana for a manifest top card of your library. Again, sorcery speed, though, not as good as the instant speed. I can't judge manifest until I've actually play tested to see how well this card will work. We've seen Crux of Fate before. This one says destroy all dragons or all non-dragons. It's going to give mono black or Esper or black blue a sweeper, which I'm not too thrilled about. But if you are building a dragon deck, or with dragons and non-dragons, they will have to choose between the two. Now we have the Flame Rush Rider. I'm going to pull this up on a separate one, so hopefully we can see the actual text. So it says whenever it's a human warrior for 5 mana, whenever Flame Rush Rider attacks, put a token onto the battlefield tapped and attacking that's a copy of another target attacking creature. Exile token at the end of turn. That is not bad at all for 4 mana dash. That's actually pretty sweet if you have a card that has like Double Strike or just a bigger creature. And let's see, it puts a token onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So Fanatic of Mogus is cool because it will actually trigger off that Fanatic of Mogus when it comes into play. So say you got this guy, you got the Flame Rush Rider in your hand, you're going to dash for 4, you've got a Fanatic of Mogus out. It will read the devotion off the Flame Rush, the other Fanatic, the Fanatic that's coming in, so it's 3 damage minimal, and if you have anything else out, like a Prophetic Flame Speaker, that's 5 damage. So you're able to do that each turn. I think the dash is going to be very underrated, especially with mechanics like this that actually do things when they come into play. So Flame Rush Rider might be a little too high of a cost at 4 mana with the dash, but I mean this guy will be a 3/3 haster. Your dude you have to be attacking with it. That's fine though. So minimal, you can get for 4 mana. You can get. Am I reading this right? You can get 2 3/3 hasters. So when Flame Rush Rider attacks, put a token on the battlefield tapped and attacking. There's a copy of another target attacking creature. Exile the token at the end of combat. So yeah, that's 4 mana for 2 3/3s that don't stay out, but that is pretty powerful, I think, in this format. Very powerful, actually. Because then you can just keep doing that every turn. You could even run... I'm liking this in sort of like a Jeskai control type build and have these as your finisher. That whenever you get up to like 7 mana and have the counterspell manas up, you can just start dashing this each turn for like 6 of damage each turn. Hail Satan while we're doing this. But... yeah, and then keep up like lightning strikes or whatever you need to keep up. So I do think this card is playable and powerful enough. So yeah, it does have this like this little Twin Flame or Felhide Spiritbinder ability, and I actually think it's more powerful than those two cards. All right, so back to we have the Frontier Mastodon. It's ferocious, enters the battlefield +1/+1 counter on it if your creature is power 4 or greater. It already is value at 3/2 for 3 mana. Going to be a great card in limited. We have the Sand Step Mastodon, which says it's a reach for 7 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you get a bolster 5. So if it's just himself, it is a 10/10 for 7 mana. So definitely a Timmy card. And I don't know if it's going to be able to see play in the format full of like Utter Ends but I mean, this feels like Wolfie or Silverheart, but it's 7 mana. The only way this is going to see play is in some sort of green devotion list, and with competing with like Hornet Queen and Genesis Hydra, I don't think it's going to see play. So we'll go to Rage Form. Rage Form enters the battlefield. It becomes an aura with enchant creature. Manifest the top card of your library and attach it to. So it's going to be, and then it gives it double strike. So you're going to get a 2/2 double striker. The cool thing about this, though, is that you can unmanifest the Rage Form, and then whatever it is going to get double strike. So there might be some pretty nifty little combos with this. I'm thinking of is it the Surak guy? It's the blue-green guy that is the 6/6 trample hexproof. That's pretty sweet with a Rage Form in a Tamir-type deck. But I don't know if this is quite going to be standard playable, but it's perfect for a rogue deck builder because this will give me something to brew around. Now I have a Hooded Assassin, which is kind of a filler card. Destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn. That's nice, especially in like a Mardu deck where if you can attack their tokens, they block it, then you can kill their fatty with this guy coming in and get value. Or he can become a 2/3 for 3. So very solid pick. He'll be picked early, I'd say between like 3rd, 4th, 5th pick in most drafts. Now we have Outpost Siege, which is cool because it has this, you choose cons or dragons when it's into the battlefield. If you choose cons, you get to exile the top card of your library. At the beginning of each upkeep, you get exile, and then you can play that card. So it gives you basically an extra draw step or an extra draw per turn, but you have to cast that card. I actually think that that's pretty good in a red deck. A little bit high on the mana cost for 4. If you compare it with like Phyrexian Arena or Underworld Connections in the past that have seen play. And if you choose dragons, whenever creature you control leaves the battlefield. And that's cool, it says leaves instead of dies, so it gets around that exile. I'm hoping they're going to start print a lot more cards that say leaves rather than dies. I know that it can be exploited with flicker type stuff, but it's so obnoxious with all the exile cards that do not allow the card to die, and then they don't get their death triggers. So it's going to deal 1 damage. It's whenever a creature is non-token as well. So all those like dash tokens that get exiled, anything that is just, I'm thinking about a card from Innistrad that put in 3/1/1. I believe it put in 3/1/1 white human tokens, and then he had to exile them at the end of the turn. This Outpost Siege is really cool with cards like that because it gives so much more value. So I'm definitely liking the Outpost Siege. It's going to be a card that's going to be needed to be brewed around, especially for that Dragon's ability. And the upside to that is if you don't have any sort of combination, then you can just go for the cons and draw an extra card to find you the combination. So it's going to work very well, I think, with Perforos and tokens and things leaving the battlefield. Any sort of flicker, any sort of token that gets exiled in a turn, awesome card. We have Yasova the Dragonclaw. I've had a lot of discussion about this card already. A 4/2 for 3 mana, and it's got trample, which is cool. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you can pay 1 and hybrid either blue or red. If you do, you gain control of target creature your opponent controls with power less than Yasova Dragonclaw, which is most around turn 4. And the cool thing about this is it turns on prowess, and you'll be able to use the ability. I think this card's going to be a bomb in limited and might see some fringe standard play, but you can't really guarantee that this is going to see any play in the standard because it's got a 2 toughness, which is going to be magma jetted. It's going to be bile blighted. It's going to be drowned and sorrowed away, and you just don't get enough up to this. I think Boon Satyr is just a better card for 3 mana than the Yasova Dragonclaw. Or if you're in those colors as well, you still have Fanatic of Xenagos, you still have Goblin Rabblemaster, you still have a lot of cards that I think are just going to compete too highly with this slot. So of course the fetch lands and the comes into play gain life lands are going to be reprinted. Let's see this last card here, which is Shaman Revelation, which is 5 mana sorcery, draw a card for each creature you control. Ferocious, gain 4 life for each creature you control. This is going to be a limited bomb. Sorcery speed makes it a little bit awkward. It might be like a 1 or a 2 of in a mono green devotion type list to really, it might replace the 3/3 devotion guy as a good sideboard card, the one that gains life equal to your devotion to green. As this, if you have, so let's say you have a Pelucranos, you have a Sylvan Caryatid, and you have a Corsair Crewfix out, you're going to trigger off the Ferocious, so you're going to gain 12 life. Oh, no, you only gain 4 life. You'll gain 4 life and draw 3 cards. Yeah, that's definitely not that bad. So Hornet Queen makes it draw you like 5 cards. It might see some play. It might be like a 1 of or a 2 of. Well, again, it has a pretty steep cost, being sorcery speed and 5 mana though. But it might be. It's gonna be great in EDH, definitely. But we'll see if it sees standard play. A lot of these are just like, the cool thing about all these ones that are spoiled so far is I don't see like this clear cut. Oh, it's gonna warp standard. It's going to be this amazing card. I see a lot of brewable cards. I'd say the most powerful card that's probably printed so far is going to be this Crux of Fate. That is 100% going to see play. 5 mana sweeper for black. We haven't seen anything like that in a while. We have a 6 mana one that either destroys non-enchantment creatures, but 5 mana is a lot more playable than 6. And again, I think that if I were to really pick my favorite card spoiled so far, it would probably be this Outpost Siege, just for either Outpost Siege or the Soul Flare, just because both of those require so many things to build around them to become an actual good card. And I am the rogue deck builder, I am a synergy player, and those are the types of cards that I absolutely love, is cards that I can work around and find new awesome combinations and whatnot. So I know this video is a little bit sloppy. I'm going to actually have some prettier videos coming up here, but I thought I'd just go ahead and tackle the spoilers for the 29th of December. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.